So I woke up like every other normal day, and we usually have practice on Sundays because Saturdays are games. So went and ate breakfast in the morning like I always do before practice. Went to the facility, got dressed out, and started doing my lift. I was just like bending over, just pulling the weight up, and then I felt a little weird, so I dropped the weight and just stood up, took a couple of breaths, and then not 2 seconds later, my leg literally gave out and I fell to the ground.
We were catching up on things, stocking the training room. One of the strength coaches ran into the training room and said that there had been an incident and that there was an athlete down unconscious. And upon arriving in the weight room, I saw Dusan laying there on the ground. He was on his back. One side of his face was not moving, one arm was not moving, one leg was not moving. So it became very apparent very quickly that what we had going on was a stroke, and so we went ahead and activated our emergency protocols. Call was placed to 911, and we had to be very specific, saying this was a suspected stroke, and to go ahead and order the proper tests and also get ready to administer treatment.
Trainers, I think, pretty quickly identified that there was a possibility that he was having a stroke and brought him to RMH. When he was there, they did a neurological evaluation, and that clearly showed that he had a large blockage in a blood vessel going to the left side of his brain, his left internal carotid and middle cerebral arteries. And we made the decision that he needed to come from RMH to Martha Jefferson to be treated for his large vessel occlusion.
We know that for every 1 minute that goes by in a large vessel occlusion like that, you have 2 million more brain cells that are dying in that minute. And for every 5 minutes that goes by, there's a 15% chance difference in the odds of being independent and living independently versus being disabled.
When we say stroke, we mean ischemic stroke, and that is the 5th leading cause of death in the United States. It's the #1 cause of adult disability in the United States, so it's an enormous public health problem. The mortality rate of a patient not treated with that occlusion is greater than 50%. So a lot of how someone does after a stroke treatment revolves on how quickly they identify the stroke and how quickly we can get that patient the appropriate treatment.
Hopefully my story can inspire people to like look into this and even saves a life. That's really like what people can take from my story.
I think that Dusan's case really highlights the importance of a team-based approach to stroke care, where everything has to link together seamlessly, almost like a baton race, to make sure that a patient gets to the treatment as efficiently as possible.
Having a system in place that appropriately treats these patients and quickly treats these patients is incredibly important. And if you look at Dusan, for example, his outcome undoubtedly would have been different if we had treated him 2 hours later.
These signs and symptoms were recognized very quickly. Everything that was done throughout all these doctors working together and the teamwork is what has helped Dusan make such an amazing recovery.
What happened in his care really is exemplary for how we want stroke systems of care to work, not just in Virginia, but around the country. And I think that we need to continue to use this as an example that is promoted and highlighted by the American Heart and American Stroke Association to make these systems of care possible.
I'd just like to thank everybody. I'd like to thank the people here immediately at JMU with the football staff who took care of me, all the doctors at both hospitals. Very thankful for Dr. Gunn because he pretty much is the one who saved my life. All the nurses and stuff helped me with recovery and stuff. Very appreciative of all them and the staff here and at Martha Jefferson that helped me out. I appreciate all them.
The American Heart Association really plays an enormously important role in education to the community, to the first responders, to the ED physicians.
The guidelines that are put forth by the American Heart and the American Stroke Association had a direct impact, for instance, in the definitive treatment in his case. And the dollars and the enthusiasm that we are raising here tonight directly impact not only the betterment of patients having strokes here in Charlottesville and our greater community, but truly around the nation and around the world.